Better late than never, I guess. Your season is over. Video college football playoff semifinal edition. Yeah, I know it's Tuesday. I could run through a list of reasons, which is a code word for excuse, as to why I didn't do this Saturday, Sunday, or yesterday, Monday. But I won't bore you with the details. Here I am, and it's time for the Your Season is Over video. The only college football weekly recap video that actually matters. Of course it matters. Of course it matters. We're going to point and laugh at the losers today. Just like the last couple of Your Season is Over videos, a lot of the add-on stuff that we do during the season for the Your Season is Over video doesn't apply today. There's no Heisman list to go through. There's no list of best teams. There's no We're Back list. The new We're Back list, though, the first official We're Back list for 2025 will be debuting next week after the national championship game. So stay tuned for that. So we're just going to go through the list of losers today, which, of course, there are two. And I do have a loaded diaper award for you. This is something new we started 3 or 4 weeks ago. Shout out to the comments section for suggesting this, the loaded diaper award. We've done it the last couple of times. We're going to do it again. But it's time to put some helmets on the Your Season is Over wall. Let's just get this added right up here. There we go. That looks good. Oh, did I forget to take these down? I must have forgot to take these down. Of course, Florida State 2-10. The worst college football, the worst power conference football team in the history of college football. They went 2-10 in a conference, the ACC, that went like 2-11 in bowl games and was the worst power conference of all time in 2024. 2024 ACC was so bad it's hard to even explain it. And Florida State somehow went 2-10 there, so they're permanently on the Your Season's Over wall. And of course Alabama and Colorado, because they have the same record. And that's it. There's no other reason. They have the same record. Now there is a difference, of course, between Alabama and Colorado. Huge difference. Anybody know what it is? What's the huge difference between Colorado and Alabama? One of them lost to 3 unranked teams, and one of them didn't. But anyway, I digress. Before I regress to, gotta take a couple of helmets down. Guess we'll start with the Thursday night game. Damn. Penn State and Notre Dame. I got this one wrong. And it just goes to show you, don't go back on your, initial feeling or whatever, especially when it comes to picking or gambling on football games. I have been saying for a few weeks, going back a couple of rounds in the playoffs, that I thought whoever won between Georgia and Notre Dame would end up playing for the Natty, and whoever won between Oregon and Ohio State would end up playing for the Natty. I was obviously right with Ohio State, and I was obviously right with the winner of the Georgia-Notre Dame game. But for some reason, going into the Penn State Notre Dame game, where's the Notre Dame helmet? Over here. I changed my mind, and I went with Penn State. And I explained the reasons why. I thought Penn State offensively had played really well over the last few weeks, and I was worried about Notre Dame offensively. Outside of Jeremiah Love, they don't really have any playmakers. I mean, Riley Leonard is a great clutch player. You need 3 yards, going to get you 4. But, they can't really throw the ball. So I changed my mind, and I shouldn't have. I should have went with my gut. I didn't. And Notre Dame gets the win. So congratulations to Rudy. They're on to the national championship game, of course, to face Ohio State. But this is about Penn State. Look, I thought Penn State played a pretty good game. Like Notre Dame, they struggle a little bit with explosive plays too. Now, I think they were a little more explosive this year than they've been in years past, even in the passing game. And obviously that tight end Warren is almost something we've never seen before with the different kinds of ways that Penn State uses him. I mean, obviously, tight end, but he can split him out wide. He's thrown touchdown. He's just kind of a do-it-all. He runs the ball. But still, you look on the outside at Penn State, and there just seems to never be a wide receiver out there that worries anybody. And it's been a problem for him for a while. And I'm not saying, they're one wide receiver away from beating Notre Dame or anything like that. But this was a good game. It was a low-scoring, defensive game. Notre Dame ends up winning 27-24. We all saw the end. We all know kind of what happened there with that. It's just a bad play call. We can blame Drew Aller. And look, and Drew Aller deserves some of the blame. He didn't play great. I don't think he played bad. And then you have that last play, right? And it's just a bad decision. He shouldn't have thrown that ball. He was sort of scrambling to his left, threw it across his body back to his right, threw it late over the middle, which you're never supposed to do. They teach you that basically in middle school when you're playing quarterback. And on top of all that, it was not an accurate throw, and it led to an interception that ended the game. My question would be, why are you even calling that play? And, people are jumping on James Franklin, and I get it. Well, shit rolls uphill. When you're a head coach, you're ultimately responsible, sort of the whole, the buck stops here deal. But, unlike Texas, who we'll get to in a minute, who has their own play calling issues, Penn State actually has an offensive coordinator. And he's got to bear some of this burden here. This was a bad call. Penn State had struggled to throw the ball all game long, and they had success, particularly late in the game, running the ball. And the game was tied. Forget even trying to get down there to kick a field goal. Worst case scenario there, you're thinking you're headed to overtime. A scenario that I think Penn State would have a good chance in, running the ball in from the 20-yard line, 25-yard line. But they sort of get impatient and too aggressive there with that play call. And then it was compounded by the fact that Drew Aller made a bad decision with the ball. The result is a Notre Dame interception. They go down, they kick the game-winning field goal, game over. Just a horrific play call. But Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator for Penn State, he's got to bear some of this blame too. And James Franklin. Look, James Franklin hires Kotelnicki, so it all kind of goes up to him because you've heard that. Here we go. James Franklin can't win the big game. Can't win a big game. I mean, I happen to think winning 2 playoff games means he won 2 big games, but then people go, "Oh, but he beat SMU and Indiana." And what's funny is most of the people saying that are fans of teams who weren't nearly as good as SMU or Indiana and couldn't get their team into the playoffs. Those 2 teams did. So whatever you think about SMU and Indiana, I refuse to accept the narrative that winning a playoff game isn't a big win. Of course it's a big win. It doesn't. Who you're playing is irrelevant. If you get into the playoffs, that's a big game, period. I guarantee you, if James Franklin would have lost, if Penn State would have lost to SMU or Indiana, I guarantee you people would be on here going, "See, James Franklin can't win a big game." But because he won the game, somehow that makes the game not big. And look, I'm not defending James Franklin here. I've done that in the past. This is a bad look for James Franklin. He's got to find a way to win some of these fucking games. And again, it's not necessarily this Notre Dame game in a vacuum that James Franklin has to answer for. It's the last 10 years worth of these games. And I don't specifically mean playoff games. This is the first time they've been in the playoffs. I mean every regular season against Ohio State and Michigan. And basically the top 2 or 3 teams they play a year, they just can't win. And they're losing the same way. Rarely do they get blown out. Their defense usually plays pretty good. Their defense played good against Ohio State this year. They scored 0 offensive touchdowns against them. Now, they had a little bit of success offensively against Notre Dame, but shit, not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. And Drew Aller throws an interception at the end of the game. Notre Dame goes down, kicks the field goal. Shout out to the Notre Dame field goal kicker, by the way. I wasn't aware of this until the Sugar Bowl when they played Georgia. But Notre Dame had the worst, I'm not exaggerating, they were dead last in FBS in field goal percentage heading into the Sugar Bowl. And he made 3 kicks? He was 3 for 3 in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. And he was 2 for 2 in this game against Penn State, including the game winner as time expires. So shout out to that guy. He's caught a lot of shit, I'm sure, this season. Field goal kickers are one of the least respected and most dumped on players in all of college football, right? They make a kick, what do? Well, they're supposed to make it. They only got one job, that kind of thing, right? They make a kick, we just go, well, he's on scholarship to make kicks. He's supposed to do that. They miss a kick, it's the end of the fucking world. Oh my God, this guy's terrible. You had one job, you can't make a kick. What are you doing? So let's give this guy some credit. 5 for 5 now in his last 2 games. The 2 biggest wins that Notre Dame has had in the last 35 years, going back to 1988, the last time they won a national title. The 2 biggest wins Notre Dame has had since the late 80s, beating Georgia a couple of weeks ago in the Sugar Bowl, and now Penn State in the Orange Bowl. So congratulations to Notre Dame. They move on. But Penn State, man, I'm not about to start making a bunch of fire James Franklin videos. I'm not willing to go there. Oh, he should be fired. He's terrible. He doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he's not, it's not like he's, let's be real. It's not like he's Sunbelt Billy or Mike Norvell or Brent Venables or one of these guys that literally has no fucking clue what they're doing. He's Mark Richt, basically. He's got an obvious ceiling. Franklin does. So I'm not about to make a bunch of videos about how bad he is and Penn State needs to fire him yesterday. However, I'm done defending him. For years, people have been calling into my call-in show, trashing James Franklin. He's terrible. He's overrated. He's not any good. He doesn't deserve it. He should be fired. He's the worst coach on the planet. And I've gone to bat for James Franklin. I've defended him over and over again. It always starts with what he did at Vandy, which is still miraculous to me. But it's now been 9 seasons since they won the Big Ten. Every season, it's literally exactly the same. No offense, can't beat the top 2 or 3 teams they play. I've reached the end of my rope now with defending James Franklin. You couldn't have dreamed up a better path to the national championship game than what Penn State had. And that's again, I just talked about how good I think SMU and Indiana are and that I think they deserve to be in the playoff. So, but let's be real. Of all the teams, Penn State, anybody would have traded places with Penn State. You don't think Ohio State would have rather played SMU and Indiana as opposed to Tennessee and Oregon? Come on. That's all I'm saying. You couldn't have dreamed up a better path to the national championship game for Penn State. And they beat Indiana, this year's kind of Cinderella out of nowhere team. And they beat SMU, a team that was in the group of 5 last year. And then they get to the semifinals against Notre Dame, a very winnable game, I think, for Penn State. Notre Dame is not some kind of offensive juggernaut. Notre Dame is really good everywhere. Where are they great? Jeremiah Smith's great. And Riley Leonard's great on 4th and 3. He can pick up 4 yards, but he can't throw the ball. There's no wide receivers. They're really good defensively on all 3 levels. But again, they're not some sort of juggernaut team. It's not. They're really good. And again, that's not to take away from Notre Dame. The point I'm making is James Franklin could have bought himself another 4 or 5 years and silenced a whole lot of people by beating Notre Dame the other day. And they had every chance and every opportunity to do it. And instead, he shit all over his own foot with a ridiculous pass call late in the 4th quarter of a tied game near midfield that, of course, resulted in a turnover, and Notre Dame goes down and kicks the game-winning field goal. Unacceptable, inexcusable. That's on you, James Franklin. Again, some of the blame also to the OC, Kotelnicki, for making that play call. Obviously, some of the blame to Dew Aller for a terrible decision to throw the ball in the first place, and then compounded by it being a bad throw. So plenty of blame to go around. But Penn State, your season is over. But don't worry. You're not alone. You're not alone. The damn Shorthorn. You should have seen. Are there any Penn State fans watching? Let's put this down here. I don't know. Kind of even it out a little, I guess. What am I doing? Don't know. I rarely know. How's that? Is that okay? It kind of looks like a cross. Shout out to Notre Dame. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Let it go, Lou. Move on. Any Penn State fans watching? I'm sure there are. The Texas fans were clowning you Thursday night. They were. The Texas fans were clowning the shit out of Penn State. What a terrible play call. How can you make such an idiotic play call with the game on the line? Oh my God. That coaching staff is terrible. That was the Texas fans. The Texas coaching staff was watching that game. They saw that terrible play call that Penn State called at the end of the game, and they go, but we can do worse. And that's exactly what they did. Texas also shit on their own foot at the end of the game. First of all, congratulations to Ohio State, and really to Texas and Penn State too. These were two unbelievable games, two great games. This is what all of y'all said you wanted. And then, of course, during the game, you're all crying, these games are boring. You guys cried for a month straight about blowouts. Then we get 2 one-possession games that come down literally to the last minute, and you cried it. These games are boring. Just further proves my theory. Number 1, Germans love David Hasselhoff. Number 2, y'all just like to complain. But anyway, you know what happened. Texas has a chance to tie the game up and send it to overtime. And honestly, I thought that's where we were headed. I thought for sure Texas was going to score. They're down inside the 5, first and goal from the 1. They're going to score. Here we go. We're going to go to overtime. First and goal, run up the middle for no gain. Now it's second and goal from the 1. A toss sweep. I think that's a worse play call than the Notre Dame call. Ohio State's got one of the best and fastest defenses in all of college football. And I get it that they're tough up front, but, breaking news, they're tough everywhere, okay? They're one of the best defenses in the country for a reason. They're tough everywhere. So you say, well, we're going to run up the middle, run into a brick wall. Okay, well, run it outside. You're going to get chased down by a fucking safety. And that's exactly what happened. Caleb Downs comes through the line untouched. And instead of second and goal from the 1, you're looking at third and goal from the 6 or whatever it was. They lose 4 or 5 yards on just a terrible play call. I watched a lot of NFL playoff football the last couple of weekends since there hasn't been as much college football on. And you see it in college football too, but it's unbelievable how much you see it in the NFL. This tush-push play, it's just a quarterback sneak with a running back pushing the quarterback from behind. I don't understand how you don't line up 4 times in a row from the 1-yard line and quarterback sneak the ball. I don't understand it. I don't. Whether you're talking about putting YSIO Manning in, doing it with Quinn Ewers, hell, put a fucking tight end. We've seen teams motion a tight end across the line of scrimmage, stop behind the center, and take a direct snap. We've seen all kinds of shit. Run the fucking ball up the middle 4 times in a row. Because here's the thing. If you got the ball on the 1-yard line, first and goal, and you say we're going to run this thing up the middle 4 times, and you don't score, then you just go, well, we just didn't deserve to win. If you can't score in 4 plays from the 1-yard line, you might be mad, but you can hold your head up and say, well, you know what? We don't deserve to win that game. Couldn't score. We had 4 plays to score from the 1-yard line. Couldn't do it. Okay. Move on. But just a terrible. First of all, Texas running backs don't worry or scare anybody. They don't. Now, that's not all Texas. I get it. They were eat up with injuries in the offseason and even into the season. But that's not. Who cares? Everybody's got injuries. You got to play with the cards you're dealt. And your strength is not running back. So the play call made no fucking sense. It was a terrible play call. So now you're sitting there at third and goal from the 6 or whatever. You try to throw the ball into the end zone. It's batted down at the line of scrimmage. 4th and goal from the 6, and game over. Jack Sawyer off the edge, hits Ewers. Not a blindside hit. Ewers probably should have seen that coming sooner, and he didn't. And Jack Sawyer not only knocks the ball out of his arms, but scoops the ball up and runs 95 yards for a touchdown. Final score 28-14. So if you didn't watch the game, you say, oh, they beat them easily, 28-14. It was really it was a one possession. That was literally the last minute of the game. Had Texas scored there, they go into overtime. Instead, scoop and score, and the final score is 28-14. And again, just like with Penn State, they got to answer for this shit. I don't really put this on Ewers. Now, I guess you could say he should have got rid of the ball quicker, or he should have seen him coming, or he should have tried to avoid this. Okay. The call never should have been made. That play call never should have been made. And unlike Texas, the Longhorns do not have an offensive coordinator to help shoulder the load here. This is all on Sarkisian. 100% on Sarkisian. Sarkisian is one of these dumbass motherfuckers who thinks he can be a head coach and an offensive coordinator. Never in the history of mankind has that been a good idea, ever. Now, listen to what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that a head coach who is also his own offensive coordinator can't have a good offensive game from time to time. Of course they can. We've seen Texas have good games offensively. I'm just saying that over the course of the long run, it bites you more than it helps you, I believe. And when it tends to bite you the most or hurt you the most is in critical situations. Why? Head coach trying to do too many fucking things. Steve Sarkisian in that moment, in that final minute of the game, that goal line offensive series for Texas where they're there at the 1. Not only is Steve Sarkisian responsible for doing everything that a head coach has to do from second to second on the sideline, including, by the way, looking ahead. Okay, if we score, what kind of kick are we going to be doing? Are we going to be squib kicking it? Are we going to be kicking it out of the end zone? Do we want to try to pin them at the 1 and force them to run it out and tackle them inside the 15? If they get the ball, what sort of defense do we want to play? Are we going to play a prevent thing? Are we going to play a man? All of that stuff is going on before it ever happened. All of those defensive conversations and special teams conversations, are we going for 2 if we score here to try to win it now? Or do we kick a field goal and play for overtime? All of those conversations are going on before they ever happen. In other words, they don't wait until it's time to kick the extra point to go, should we go for 2 here? Those conversations happen ahead of time. And guess who's involved in all of those conversations? Steve Sarkisian. So he's having to make decisions about the 2-point conversion or go for 1. What type of kickoff do we do? If they get the ball back and there's this much time left on the clock, what sorts of defenses are we going to... He's having to think about and answer questions about all of those things while also trying to come up with a play to call in real time for the offense right now. And it's a terrible fucking idea. It's been a terrible idea since the beginning of fucking time. You want to be an offensive coordinator so goddamn bad? Promote yourself to offensive coordinator and let somebody else be the head coach. Fuck. What are you doing? Sorry. Now, all that being said, okay, I think it's pretty obvious how I feel about that situation. Sarkisian shit himself in the biggest moment, okay? All that being said, I still think Sarkisian's a good head coach and one of the best offensive minds on the planet, okay? I still believe that. One instance, even a handful of instances, doesn't erase a career's worth of evidence to the contrary that Sarkisian is a pretty good play caller and is a pretty good head coach. Is he great? Is he a great head coach? I don't know. I don't know. He's made the playoffs a couple of years in a row. They made the SEC championship game in his first year in the SEC. He had a pretty good team. They recruit well. They portal well. Despite some of the complaints now, I actually think overall they handled the ERS Manning thing pretty well. They managed to keep them both. Now, I have some of the same questions a lot of y'all have. Why didn't we see a little bit more Manning in the postseason? Not even this game specifically. We did see him for one play in this game, maybe a couple of plays, but I remember the one in particular, the quarterback sweep where he picked up the first down. But, why didn't we see him a little more this postseason, going back to the SEC championship game or even the Arizona State game or whatever? But in general, I thought Sarkisian handled that pretty well. He's got to get an offensive coordinator. As a head coach, he can still be heavily involved in both the game planning and sort of the real-time decision-making with the offense, I think. But the head coaches now just have so many responsibilities. And then in the last couple of years, they've had heaped into their lap NIL, roster management with the portal and all that. There's only 24 hours in a day. There's only 24 hours in a day. And I like Sarkisian. I think he's got the potential to be a long-lasting head coach and a successful one. And generally speaking, I think he's a good offensive mind. But look, here's the thing. Because he's not the first one to do this. And people that defend it, they'll go, well, he's had good offenses everywhere he's been. Yeah, I know. But listen to me, though. Everybody, well, almost everybody that becomes a college football head coach, the reason they become a college football head coach is because they were a really good coordinator, either offensive or defensive. Usually. Again, that's not always the case. Shane Beamer was never a coordinator. He's at South Carolina. Pittman was never a coordinator. He's at Arkansas. Dion sort of came up the way he came up. But like generally, that's what happened. Like take Kirby, right? Kirby was a great defensive coordinator, becomes a head coach. And you can go on and on down the list and find these coaches that's sort of the progression you take. Is Kirby his own defensive coordinator? No. Never. Not for a day. The first thing he did when he became a head coach was hire a defensive coordinator. And Kirby's one of the best defensive minds on the planet. Nick Saban might be the best defensive mind of all time. He always had a defensive coordinator, though. Just because you were a really good coordinator doesn't mean that when you become a head coach, you should also be your own coordinator. It's too much on your plate. Steve, Sark, hire an OC, buddy. It can't hurt. Again, you can still have a ton of input into offensive philosophy and game planning and even play calling. You can still have input in that. But it lets you offload some of that responsibility. It's too much. It's just too much for a head coach to be his own coordinator. And again, I know that there are anecdotal success stories of coaches who are their own coordinator. I know. But by and large, it's a failure of a plan. By and large, it's a failure of a plan. And look, on one hand, I look at that Texas-Ohio State game and I go, I don't even see how it's a miracle they're even in this game. I thought Ohio State might would blow them out. So on the one hand, you kind of want to pat them on their little peanut heads and tell them how proud you are of them, for kind of hanging in there sort of deal. But on the other hand, you get down there with a chance to send that thing to overtime, and it's just the worst play call imaginable, and then Jack Sawyer with the scoop and score. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Very interesting to me, the approach Texas took with Jeremiah Smith. And I wonder how much of that Notre Dame looks at and goes, yeah, we'll do that too. We're sort of getting ahead of ourselves here because, of course, I'm going to do a full preview, breakdown, and prediction of the national championship game on Wednesday or Thursday. But Texas was inventing new coverages for Jeremiah Smith, weren't they? I mean, they literally did it all. They did it all except single-man coverage. They didn't do that. But they a lot of times, it wasn't technically triple coverage, but it was like triple zone around. Like they'd have one guy underneath, sort of flat area underneath Jeremiah Smith, and like two bracketing him over the top. It was wild. It was wild, but it worked. It worked. It worked in that Jeremiah Smith only had one catch for 3 yards, right? But what happened? The same thing we talked about in the prediction video. Okay, let's say you wave a magic wand and take Jeremiah Smith out of the game. Well, what about omea, abuka, Carnell Tate, the tight end, and the 2 running backs? Well, yeah, that ended up happening. That's the problem. Carnell Tate went off, omea, abuka went off, and look, those guys are NFL wide receivers. No one talks about them because Jeremiah Smith's on their team, and oh my God, Jeremiah Smith's amazing. Yeah, he is. Omea Abuka's an NFL player right now. So is Carnell Tate. Right now. Okay, so you triple Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate had 7 or 8 catches. Emeka Abuka had 7 or 8 catches. They just lit you up. Neither team was really able to run the ball all that successfully. Both teams under 100 yards rushing. So, that's good. I guess for Texas defense, they held Judkins and Henderson in check mostly. Now, when Ohio State needed to run the ball, they were able to do it. Pick up first downs, chew clock, that kind of thing. They were able to do it for the most part. And I thought Texas did a good job of eliminating the explosive play, the big play, again, for the most part. They made Ohio State earn the first downs on their way down the field on their scoring drives. And really, that's kind of a win. I mean, if you're going to give up a scoring drive to Ohio State, make it a 6-7 minute drive. Not one of these 1 minute, 70-yard touchdown deals that they like to do. So, again, defensively, I thought, did Texas play a perfect game? No, nobody plays a perfect game. But you hold Ohio State to basically 21 offensive points, right? Because that last touchdown was scored by the Ohio State defense. If you hold any offense, but particularly the Ohio State offense, to 21 points, you're doing something right defensively. So I haven't seen a lot of people complaining, Texas fans particularly, like complaining about their defense, and I hope I don't. Y'all know my philosophy. I think if you hold any team under 24 points, you should go 1-0. If you give up 24 points every week, you should go 1-0. You should never lose. That's how I feel about it, because of the way the rules are catered towards the offense with targeting and pass interference, and you can't even look at the quarterback or it's roughing the passer. RPOs and alignment able to run downfield on pass plays. Everything is set up to benefit the offense in today's college football. So the way I look at it, you give up 24 points or less, you should win the fucking game. So I thought Texas defense played good enough to win. Problem is Ohio State's got a really good defense too, and Texas just had a hard time moving the ball consistently against them, particularly in the red zone. As we saw at the end of the game, they ran into a brick wall there on first down, bad call on second down, batted ball at the line of scrimmage on third down, and then do or die situation there, 4th and goal from the 6, and to scoop and score, and it was it. That was it. It was over. It was over. Jack Sawyer. Congratulations to Jack Sawyer, by the way. Seems like he's been at Ohio State forever. And him and Quinn Ewers were roommates. When Quinn Ewers, I didn't know that. I think they mentioned it. I can't remember if it was during the game or in the post-game coverage on ESPN or whatever. After I heard that for the 5 minutes that Quinn Ewers was at Ohio State, him and Jack Sawyer were roommates, so they're actually friends. And Jack Sawyer gets the hit on him at the end of the game that ends up ending Texas season. Texas, your season is over. Loaded diaper award. I'm not giving the loaded diaper award this week to any individual. I am giving the loaded diaper award to offensive play calling by the losing teams this week, because it was just atrocious. Again, quarterbacks get way too much credit when a team wins the game. Quarterbacks get way too much blame when they lose. People are piling on Drew Aller. They're piling on Quinn Ewers. Drew Aller and Quinn Ewers are two of the best 10 quarterbacks in football this year. Now maybe quarterback play is down. Whatever list of a million things you want to say, and I'm not telling you they're great and that they're going to be stars in the NFL or anything like that. But they were two of the best 10 quarterbacks in college football this year. They were pretty good quarterbacks, but their hands were tied with the play calls. Play calling cost both of these teams a chance to play for a national championship. Now, I'm not saying that if Texas would have ran the ball up the middle 4 times in a row, they would have ended up tying the game, then going to overtime and winning. Who knows? Even if Texas scores by running the ball up the middle 4 times, maybe they lose in overtime. I don't know. But it was just the toss sweep was a horrific play call down there. It was just a bad call. And the same thing with Penn State getting aggressive there at the end of the 4th quarter with the throw. Drew Aller's not a great passer of the football. They've got no real elite weapons on the outside. And you're in a tie ball game. You've been running the ball well for most of the second half. And with a minute to go, that's when you get aggressive there. And then on top of that, look, Ewers shouldn't have fumbled. Okay. Drew Aller shouldn't have thrown an interception. Yeah, I know. Quinn Ewers never should have been in that position to fumble. And that play call for Drew Aller never should have been called. It should have been run. If we don't get it, we're going to overtime. So the loaded diaper award this week goes to offensive play callers for both those teams. Sarkisian for Texas, Kotelnicki for Penn State. So Penn State, Texas, your season is over. Y'all tried real hard. Y'all just wouldn't give up. You just wouldn't give up. Basically, 1-score games in both. Actually, 1 score in the Penn State, 27-24, 28-14. Texas loses to Ohio State, but defensive touchdown at the end. And now we are set for our national championship game: Ohio State versus Rudy, Notre Dame. Ohio State's a significant favorite. Was it 9 the last time I looked? Let me get you the up-to-date number here. 8.5 or 9, maybe. Let's see. Sports. Foosball. Yeah, foosball. Ohio State's an 8-point favorite. So what do y'all think about it? Let me know down below what y'all think about that. Ohio State's an 8-point favorite in that one against Rudy. I'm leaning Ohio State. I'm leaning Ohio State. Let's see. Ohio State hadn't won a natty since when? Was it 2015 or 14? They won their last natty. It was 2014 or 15. Let me know down below. Notre Dame hasn't won one since 88. Who needs it more? Notre Dame? Notre Dame needs something. Notre Dame needs something. Anyway, there you go. Your season is over. Semifinal playoff edition. We have one final Your Season is Over video coming this season. And yes, that will be Tuesday next week. A week for the national championship game is on January 20th, a Monday night. I promise you, for come hell or high water, that last Your Season is Over video will be out that next day, Tuesday. And then that's it for the Your Season is Over videos. Now, of course, we don't shut this channel down. No, I do this dumb shit year round. We talk college football year round here. Call-in shows. Oh, speaking of that, call-in show tonight at 9. Yeah, call me up. Tell me what you thought about the games last week, or we can look ahead to the national title game. Whatever it is y'all want to talk about tonight, just let me know. Yeah, let me know. All right. Congratulations to Ohio State and Notre Dame. Dang. Everybody else, your season is over.